Hello and welcome to That Shooting Show. My name is Steve Anderson. I am your humble host. We did get a request for Hellraiser by Ozzy Osbourne for music. I worked on that a little bit. If you want me to do Hellraiser, you're going to have to hum the bass line. Right? So when we do it, which we'll do soon once I get it worked out, I'm going to need you guys to go bump, 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 bump. Like you have to do it in your cars. You'll have to be like the mouth basing so that I can play the riff and it won't sound empty. So practice, look up Ozzy Osbourne Hellraiser and practice humming the bass line so that I can play the riff and it'll sound good in your car at the same time. So that's what we'll work on. But for now, I want to remind you we are a proud service of Walther Firearms. More specifically, the PDP steel frame is the finest competition production style pistol I have ever laid a hand on. And I'm quite sure you will agree, and Walther is also quite sure you will agree, which is why it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Hyundai P, PDP, SF, get it now quickly. So there's that. And of course, as you know, CR Speed makes the finest gun handling gadgetry on the planet. Targets USA makes the finest steel targetry known to man. It is portable, it is affordable, it is the very best. The AMG-Lab.com Commanderson timer continues to turn heads and blow minds by putting the time into the tablet, and it also blows... that was close. It also blows minds by not having a long lead time. So that's all caught up. Everything's good to go there. Hunter's HD Gold, as you know, is the only eyewear that I wear. I am not aware of any other eyewear that I will ever wear. And the OutdoorDynamics.net remanufactures the finest competition ammunition you can dispense from a Freedom Seed dispenser. And Shooting Sports Innovations is a lot to type because there is a lot to see. I want to remind you we're going to be in Brazil most of February. March 15th, I just got the official go-ahead for the class in Nampa, Idaho, so I'll get that on the website today. That may be on there by the time you listen to this program. If not, it'll be on there later today. March 22nd, just got the green flag for an IDPA mental management event in Virginia. What's going to happen there is you'll be able to sign up either for the class and mental management for $500 or just mental management at $250. And we'll put the details on the website later today. Joey Sauerland and I will be in Arkansas somewhere June 7th and 8th. April 12th is going to be Kalamazoo, Michigan. April 19th is an indoor class at Bud's Gun Shop in Collierville, Tennessee. And we'll be in South Africa most of May. And I just got online mental management planned for Wednesdays in March, 5, 12, and 18. That'll be at 3 p.m., 7 p.m., and 9 p.m. Eastern. And so you'll have that to look forward to. That'll be available, if not by the time you hear this, certainly later today. All right, so how to prevent the wheels from falling off of your dumpster fire match. Every now and then, I'm on the throne of contemplation, and I'm scrolling through the social medias as I'm letting nature take its course after the right amount of caffeine, and I see somebody posting about a dumpster fire match. I understand that you are probably joking, and I understand that the people piling on to say, oh yeah, that's me too. I realize this is probably done from a humorous point of view. However, it is extremely damaging to your shooting to think like this and talk like this and post like this. I know you think it's a joke. I know, oh, it's just a self-deprecating joke. It don't mean nothing. Well, it does mean something. And I want to help you get out of this cycle. Had a good match, had a bad match. Oh, that one there was a dumpster fire. Why? Why does that even need to be a thing? Why? Why are we even thinking about the possibility of a dumpster fire match? Okay, so here are my opinions. Number one, a dumpster fire where the wheels fall off is usually caused by making a mistake at some point in the match, relatively early, stage 2 or 3 or 4 maybe, we make a mistake. And then we talk about and think about and relive the mistake. Hey, how'd stage 2 go? Oh man, I tell you what, you'd think I was Stevie Wonder out there shooting against Ray Charles. We had such a bad stage. Why? Why are we talking like this? I understand it is the culture of the sport to talk about mistakes and perceived failures. I get it. Okay? But good shooters don't do that. I forgot to turn my screensaver off. Okay, let's go and adjust that. It's incredibly distracting. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute while I turn off the screensaver. Art Levy is screaming at the radio right now. You're supposed to do that before you start the program. I know. Okay, we should be back in business here. Uninterrupted recording excellence right there. Emotionless correction. So, and if you do have a troublesome stage, do not post that video. I will be sitting on the throne of contemplation and I will see that. And if I know you, I will send you a message. Don't do that. If you have a video of a troublesome stage or a mistake, delete it. Well, I want to watch it so I can learn from it. What you're doing is every time you watch it, you are normalizing it. You are literally binging your mistakes and getting more of them. Okay? So, when you make a mistake, we'll come to the solution here very shortly, but the wheels are falling off the vast majority of the time because you're making a mistake, you're thinking about it, talking about it, and therefore reliving it. What you don't understand is that every time you think and talk and write, well, you probably not go, well, you might write about it. That would be the worst. It's literally happening again in your self-image, which of course is your competition memory. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, ironically, it's probably a mistake you've made before, and you've probably relived it before. If you have a trend of, hitting no-shoots, if you have a trend of going into the black on hardcover targets, this is happening because it's a normal thing to do. It's not what you want, but it is normal. And the repetition of the idea in your thoughts, in your words, in your writings causes normality. Okay? Now, here's what's interesting. The mistake is usually caused by overtrying or undertrying. And you've got to understand that the conscious control of speed prevents a subconscious performance. Here's what I mean by that. Well, I shoot my best when I'm not thinking and I don't care. Well, the conscious control of speed is thinking because you're caring. Like, it's literally the opposite of what you just told me is when you shoot your best. And because I talk about it all the time, you're starting to hear more of that from other people. Other people are beginning to talk about subconscious skills, subconscious performance. Gee, I wonder where they got that idea. Okay? So, not thinking, not caring means subconscious performance with a pre-acceptance of the results. And we'll come back to that in a minute. So, anytime you're consciously controlling your speed up or down, you are not getting access to your subconscious skill. And what happens is the conscious mind literally has to relearn that skill on the clock. This is why you mess up your draw when you think about your draw the vast majority of the time. This is why if you have a classifier with a reload in it and you're thinking about the reload, you're usually going to screw it up. That's because your conscious mind doesn't know how to do it. Your conscious mind trained your subconscious how to do it and then moved on to something far more interesting. Okay? So, this irony is misunderstood by most shooters. Okay? Overtrying is rushing, trying, and hurrying because you're worried that your normal performance will not provide the result that you are hoping for. So what happens here is we set up a goal that's in violation of our self-image. Okay? I really want to win A class at Area 5. But you don't believe you can do it. You want to do it, but you don't believe that that title belongs to you. So what you're going to do in that environment is you're going to go out and hit the gas, hoping to turn in a superior A-class performance when your self-image doesn't believe you can do it. Okay? Undertrying is slowing down to get your hits. Oh, and by the way, hope is not a tactic, Bob. Okay? Undertrying is slowing down to get your hits because you have speed and accuracy conjoined. This slows down everything. Oh, that's a hard shot. Ooh, that popper's out there real far. I gotta slow down. Well, that slows down everything. Slows down your reaction time. It slows down your draw. It slows down the end of your presentation. Slows down your reload. Slows down your movement. These are dumb things to do. Okay, in the case of a difficult first shot, I dry fire 0.6 of a second. All draws. Okay, so if the target is close, my live fire time is going to be very close to 0.6 of a second. If the target's further out, it's going to be a little further away from 0.6 of a second. But the last thing I want to do on a difficult shot is slow down my draw, slow down my presentation. If I think or if I know that the sight picture is going to take a little bit of time to refine, usually 3 to 5 hundredths of a second, that ironically feels like 3 to 5 minutes, but what's the choice? What's the choice? I'm either going to fire a shot on a poor sight picture or I'm going to wait for it to be acceptable, but I'm not going to consciously slow down. Okay? Speed and accuracy don't have that much to do with each other. Speed is the rate at which my body can perform a physical task. I train that in dry fire. Great. So that as I'm handling the gun, getting it out of the holster, moving it around, this is done at my limit of human function. Accuracy is simply choosing to fire the gun in the presence of an acceptable sight picture. You don't need to slow down. It will slow you down a little bit from your limit of human function based on target difficulty, but it will be the right amount instead of an arbitrary amount. Okay? The two biggest problems in the sport are the conscious control of speed when shooting for score and negative imprints to self-image, primarily in training. And if you look at the middle of the pack of nationals, those names don't change. You're going to find the conscious control of speed, and you're going to find negative imprints to self-image, primarily in training. I'm going to speed up here. I'm going to slow down here. This here's a speed stage. I think I can win it if I go really fast. And they're like functional alcoholics. They hook up just enough. They haven't paid a big enough price to change their ways. You can occasionally hit the gas and hook up if you have a high level of confidence. What's really happening is you're not really hitting the gas. You're getting 100% access to the limit of human function because of your high level of confidence, which is always provided by self-image. Okay? Now, the negative imprints to training and self-image look like this. You go out and train, and everything is either not fast enough or not accurate enough, sometimes at the same time. Because the sport always allows an opportunity for disappointment if we go looking for one. I can always have a good run and complain that it was slow. I can always have a fast run and complain about a delta. So you've got to understand the definition of success in training, and you've got to allow yourself to be successful. That's the bottom line. And if you don't define success on an individual drill or exercise, live fire, dry fire, whatever it is, you will never feel successful, which will cause you to feel like you're wasting your time practicing. Those ideas go with you to the match like ammunition in your ammo box. Okay? I wasn't fast enough here. I wasn't accurate enough here. I screwed this up over there. Didn't do this very well. Well, when you see those things at a match, those ideas are the last ones you had. If you go out and shoot strong hand, weak hand, and you say, I can make these shots, but it's slow, and you go to a strong hand, weak hand stage, that's your last thought. I can make these shots, but it'll be slow. And you're very likely to rush, try, hurry. It's fascinating to me. Okay? Now, let's talk about the choke. The choke is usually what causes the wheels to fall off. So the choke usually manifests as under-trying that switches gears into over-trying. Typically, when a choke will occur is I came in really careful because I didn't want to make a mistake. And then as the day goes on, I was either revealed to be slow or I got tired of being slow or something happened with regard to my perception of my speed. So then I go from over-trying to under-trying. I go from under-trying to over-trying. I did this chronically when I first started shooting major matches. And the mistake I made was I was shooting them differently than the locals because that's what I thought you were supposed to do. Oh, this is a serious match. I got to really take this seriously. Well, the problem isn't that we take major matches too seriously. It's that we don't take the locals seriously enough. And as a result, we don't learn a process for delivering a winning performance. And it's really strange because you'll be shooting really well locally. You might be winning locally. But then you go to a major match, you do something different. And doing something different usually activates the conscious mind, once again, ironically, in conjunction with a poor self-image, preventing or denying access to your training. When you get stuck in this cycle, you are literally wasting your time training, okay? In your 2015 Subaru, raise your hand if you've ever practiced more and shot worse. Most people have, typically at the intermediate level. That is always caused by negative imprints during training. If you practice more and shooting worse, that means your thoughts of ability while you are training are poor. They're negative. They're not productive. Well, you're telling me just to tell myself I'm the best, even though I'm screwing up in practice. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, the self-image cannot be violated. It can be stretched. Okay, if you think about trying to fit an object into an orifice, There's stretching that needs to happen before it can be violated. It's a slow process. So you feed it things it can handle until it's ready for the big whammy. Make your own jokes. That was not a dirty joke in any way, right? Here's how it works. I'm the best shooter in the world. Well, that's not true. That's a negative imprint. I can't believe that. Let's try it this way. I am becoming the best A-class shooter at my club. I am becoming the best shooter in my state. This is how you can stretch self-image without violating it, by feeding it things it can believe that are a slight stretch. Okay? You've got to do that. You've got to. And when you think of your goal, you have got to think of your goal as inevitable. If it is plausible, possible, attainable, achievable, it will remain that way. When it becomes inevitable, the only thing you don't know is when it's going to happen. And regarding goals, deadlines are only useful if you can exponentially increase your level of participation, right? So if I decide I'm going to retire from shooting at Gen 25 and I've got to win nationals before I retire, that's going to require an exponential increase in training. So generally speaking, unless there's a really good reason for a deadline, I'm not a big fan. I much prefer the idea of inevitability, which means this is going to happen. I just don't know when. So see, self-image is already waking up. Okay, I can be a state champion. I can be a national champion. I just don't know when, because I'm not going to quit until I do. It becomes inevitable. Okay, so choke is typically under trying, which turns into over trying until you make the mistake. And ironically, it's the mistake that you knew you were going to make. And this memory of this process stays with you in your self-image. I always come out of the gate slow. I always screw the pooch on stage 3, and then I shoot really good. And self-image just causes you to wait for these things to happen like you know they're going to do. Right? Manifestation became, there was a movie, I believe it was called The Secret, very popular with women, some women, where they talk about this idea of manifesting what you want. Okay, so think of self-image as manifesting things that are within your control. I personally don't believe in manifestation, things beyond my control. If I can influence an event, something that I want to have happen, I can affect that with my behavior. But something like winning the lottery, I don't believe in manifesting things beyond our control. I could study that a little bit more and see if that's a thing, but what I really think happens, so let's say somebody wants to manifest a spouse. Okay? They really get interested in finding a soulmate, a life partner. Okay, so that's not going to work sitting in your house. I mean, maybe online you could do it, but this idea that you're manifesting a life partner is going to cause you to change your behavior. You may talk to somebody in a coffee shop that you wouldn't have if you decided to manifest this thing, right? This is how self-image works. When you decide something's inevitable, it makes subtle changes to your behavior to move you closer to that thing that you want, okay? But the choke occurs when we know we're going to screw up. We're accustomed to this idea. We know this is going to happen. But we also know we're going to shoot really well when it's over. This is the cycle we need to break. And the reason you shoot better after a choke most of the time is because pressure is now reduced or eliminated. And I have known people who will literally go out and intentionally make mistakes to relieve some pressure. You know, they might say things like, well, I'm shooting for fun now. And they shoot really good. It's because now they're shooting subconsciously. Now they've pre-accepted the results and they're getting more access to their subconscious skill. I'm trying to give you the hack so you don't have to go through the choke to get to the skill. So, what is pressure? Pressure is stress caused by the perceived importance of the event. When I shot that Steel Challenge match about a month and a half, whenever it was, I was feeling an immense amount of pressure. In the grand scheme of my career, that match was not very important, but it felt like the most important match of my life, and in some ways it was. I was feeling a lot of pressure. So the perceived importance can be the same as the actual importance, but they won't always be the same, meaning the world shoot is important, so we can expect to feel some pressure. A little 8-round speed shoot with the super squad watching you, that's not super important, but it's going to feel super important, so the perceived importance is going to be high. Here's what you've got to understand about pressure. The only thing pressure can do is amplify what you are thinking and feeling. These can be controlled. You can control what you're thinking, and to some extent, controlling what you're thinking will also help control what you're thinking. So if you're worried about making a mistake, pressure will make that more likely. It will increase that fear, increase that anxiety. And if you're picturing the mistake in conjunction with worrying it, brother, that mistake is headed your way on a silver platter. That is going to happen because you manifested it, right? By thinking about it, by picturing it, by talking about it, by worrying about it. You're getting all these reps to your self-image. This is a thing that can happen. This is a thing that can happen. Okay? So the solution is to think and talk about the solution's in there twice. The answer, the secret, is to think and talk about the solution or the correction. An easy way to do it is to say, next time I will. So instead of, oh, I really screwed the pooch on that one, that was an orgy of caninus intercoursus. Instead of that, you're going to say, hey, next time I will get a slightly better sight picture. But you've got to understand, poor shots have little to do with speed. I know that sounds crazy. Yes, an accurate shot will be slower than a wild shot, but only because I waited typically 3 to 500ths of a second for a slightly better sight picture, not because I chose to fire it slowly. You've got to let that go. You've got to let it go, okay? The most common mistake is going to be a temporary lapse of visual patience. The next most common mistake is going to be a very coarse trigger manipulation, which is ironically usually caused by over-aiming. And the newer you are, the more likely it is to be trigger. The more intermediate to advanced you are, the more likely, ironically, we'll have to check with Alanis Morissette to make sure it's ironic, is likely to be sight. If you're A-class or higher, your poor shots are going to be caused by choosing to fire the gun without the presence of an acceptable sight picture. What's cool about this is, not only is it the most common problem you're going to have, but it is the most correctable and maybe the only problem you can fix in between stages. Right? If you come out of stage 1 with a miss, you probably chose to fire the gun without an acceptable sight picture. And it was very likely to be on the second shot on a paper target because you've been practicing doubles and you think that a perfect grip will let you rip doubles with impunity at any distance. This is not the case. Simply not the case. But visual patience is immediately correctable in between stages. And it doesn't need to be emotional. When I worked with Jay Beal at Nationals 2 years ago, he had a miss on the 25-yard strong hand only string. And I didn't mention it to him because I know better. I don't want him talking about it or thinking about it, but somebody asked him, because they inevitably will, hey, Jay Beal, what happened to the miss over there? And he goes, it's funny. He didn't have the mustache then, so he looked a lot more intelligent. He said, it's funny. When the dot isn't on the target when the gun goes off, the bullet is not likely to be on the target when it reaches the target area. It's like, wow, he knows. He can fix it. I don't remember if that stage was Virginia or Comstock. Probably was Virginia, but I don't remember. But at any rate, that visual patience is very correctable in between stages. But you do not discuss the mistake with anyone ever. You think and talk only of the correction. You don't post a video. You don't get on there and go, well, I was doing pretty good until I had 3 mics and an FTSA, because you have to understand, you cannot outsmart the power of the repetition of those ideas. You are literally dooming yourself to make that mistake again in the future. Literally dooming yourself. You're manifesting it because it's within your control. So do not discuss, oh, you're telling me just to ignore my mistakes. Yeah, this time, you're right. I am telling you to ignore your mistakes. Well, that's really not what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you to provide the solution or the correction. And you know what it is. Right? I think it's pretty rare that we have 100% mystery mics. Think about it. If you shoot a stage and you have a mic on the stage and you go to that target and you're really honest with yourself, you knew that wasn't a good shot. You knew it. Well, I could feel it. Well, then what did you think was going to happen? Dot's over here, target's over there, you fired the gun anyway. What were you literally expecting to have happen? It's kind of crazy when you think about it like that. Now, if it's a true technical issue, if it's something that you're just not able to do, such as movers, partials, strong hand only, weak hand only, long distance steel. If it's a technical issue, learn to do it correctly in training. Teach yourself. What does it look like and feel like to get it right on this kind of target? What's it going to look like and feel like? Okay, learn to get it right. And if it's a technical issue, particularly regarding accuracy, the timer's not real important until you can do it. Right? If you're having trouble shooting swingers, what good's it going to do to shoot swingers quickly? Until you learn how to shoot a swinger. I got a message yesterday from a guy that says, "Hey, I'm really tired of having trouble on swingers. What should I do?" And I said, "Well, here's your options. You can build or buy a swinger. You can build or buy a dry fire swinger. I built a dry fire swinger. They're very easy to make. Or you can go on Dry Fire King. There's lots of movers on Dry Fire King, and I'm sure they can be slowed down to get strategy. Or you can buy a swinger." And the guy says, "Well, I don't really want to spend the money." I said, "Well, hang on a second. You told me you were tired of sucking on swingers. And to whatever extent the big match has a lot of swingers in it, if you don't know how to do it, you're kind of screwed." Right? And IPSC matches typically have a lot more swingers than USPSA. That's something we need to learn how to do. And the other great thing about learning how to shoot swingers is what you learn there can be applied to other moving targets. The thing about moving targets is you shoot them where they're going to be, not where they are. That made the most sense to me of any advice I'd ever been gotten. It was given before it was gotten. It made more sense to me than any advice I'd ever been given and therefore had gotten. Okay? But I had to learn it. I had to experience it. So I built a dry fire swinger. And I dry fired the swinger until it quit moving. And then I started it again. And then I dry fired it until it quit moving. And I figured out what it looks like to be successful. If you've got a problem like that, if you've got an El Guapo of that sort, and that's your particular El Guapo, not the real El Guapo, but in that case, it'd be a different El Guapo, you got to learn how to do that, man. You got to learn how to do it. And as you're correcting the problem technically, as you're learning to be successful on these kinds of targets, you've got to control the imprint so the problem stays solved in your self-image. Because if you do the work, but you don't imprint, "Oh, now I know how to do this," you're not going to get access to the new skill because you're still afraid of the challenge. And guys, gals, dudes, dudettes, professional malleables, you can't outsmart this. You cannot outsmart these negative imprints. You can't. They are literally denying you access to your skill. And you know it's true. I'm trying to convince you of it, but you know it's true. When you hate the stage and you hate the plan, you don't shoot very well. When you love the stage and you love your plan, you shoot much better. This is the power of positive or productive imprints. Look in your shooting career. I'm just giving you the hack so it doesn't happen at random, so you are actually in control of it. Because self-image defines normality collectively and individually based on imprints. Let's try that again. Your self-image, your thoughts about your ability, and by the way, it's not ego. We're not going to beat that dead horse with a broken record today. Self-image defines normality collectively and individually based on imprints. I always tank the classifier. That is a thing that people believe that's going to continue to happen. Right? Every time you say that, when you walk up to a classifier, your last thought becomes your future. I always tank the classifier. Once again, I was doing a match in California, and the RO said, "I always tank stage 3, and here we come up on stage 3. And guess what happened? He tanked it. He manifested it by making it normal to do it, so of course he's going to do what's normal. Or you could say, "I always shoot well on steel and hoser stages." So if there's a hoser stage that has some steel in it, this shooter is expecting to be successful. I always have mics on tux targets. You're just waiting for it to happen. You are literally waiting for the thing that you know is going to happen. Or you could say, "I shoot partials well in the center of the available target area." So you see partials, your last thought becomes your immediate future. "Hey, I do this well. I know how to do this." Something somebody might say would be, "I always have a slow start and then shoot well later in the day." Well, guess what's getting ready to happen? Because if that doesn't happen, it's going to make you uncomfortable. Self-image does not like to be uncomfortable. Self-image likes to be comfy, cozy. Okay? So these ideas are created by your habits and your attitudes. The repetition of these habits, the things you do, and the attitudes, which are settled or established ways of thinking or feeling about something, these work together to create normality. And they can be changed. Right? If you don't like to shoot first, I'm going to tell you to volunteer to shoot first. You'll get very good at it. And if you're quick, they won't let you do it anymore. So now you're back in the briar patch. You are sitting in tall cotton. Okay? Because your habits and attitudes are now predicting to do well when you go first. Take a look at your habits and attitudes. What do you believe is true about your shooting? What are your thoughts of ability collectively and individually? Right? When you see Drew Maruski, do you know he's going to beat you? Well, again, you're only going to see two kinds of shooters. Shooters you can beat and shooters that can beat you. And those predictions are usually true. But they can be changed. I'm not telling you, if you're a C-class shooter, to believe that you can beat Drew Maruski. He's very fast. He literally walks the stages forwards and backwards. Right? If you shoot in Maine and you're up against Jay Beal, I'm not telling you to believe you can beat Jay Beal. If you shoot in South Africa against Gaz, I'm not telling you to tell yourself you can beat Gaz. Right? But you're only going to see shooters you can beat, shooters that can beat you. And again, self-image can't be violated, but it can be stretched. Hey, I'm getting closer to Jay Beal, to Gaz Evans. I'm getting closer to these guys. Right? Last time I shot against Joey Sauerland, I was 78%. This time I'm 82%. So I'm making progress towards this thing that I want. Self-image says, ooh, we're getting better. Not, this guy is unbeatable. It says, hey, we're making progress in the right direction. But the wheels are falling off your dumpster fire match because you're making a mistake and you're thinking about it. And stating that it's happened again is dooming it to happen again. My favorite thing that Jay Beal has ever said, he said, I have never had a dumpster fire match and I never will. My all-time favorite Jay Beal quote. That's his self-image. He knows how to prevent that. But what you can't do after a mistake, talk about the mistake. It's literally happening again. Okay? You're giving yourself PTSD flashbacks on the mistake. So you're expecting this thing to happen. It's not what you want, but the repetition has made it become normal, so you're fully expecting it to happen. So what you do is you change the expectation. Hey, I expect to leave only acceptable shots today because I'm going to get a subconscious stage plan, have a singular focus of putting my dot in the middle of the target, so I'm going to expect to shoot well. Doesn't guarantee you're going to win, but it will produce a winning performance when you learn how to do it. Here you go again, handing out participation trophies. Well, a winning performance is defined as you going out, getting access to your skill. A popular phrase would be when you shoot your game, and you shoot well. You may win, you may not. But until you can shoot your game, and we're not going to take the time to define that, and good Lord, I hate the air quotes. However, until you learn to shoot your game and produce a winning performance, training more is not going to make you more likely to win. But when you learn to be consistent, and by the way, consistency is the quality of your thoughts and your ability to duplicate them. Oh, wait, hang on. Have you been writing down what you're thinking when you do well? Have you bothered to keep a record of your best stages? I only keep track of my crap ones. That way I can fix them. Well, okay. So if I have a detailed record of my crap stages, I'm getting really good at screwing them up. I know every way I can possibly screw it up. What would happen if I kept a detailed record of my good stages? Hey, these are the 10 best stages I've ever shot in my entire career. What was I thinking before the stage? What was I thinking while I was shooting? What was I thinking when I got done? Wouldn't that be a better template than your crap stages? I would suggest that it would be. So, I want to let you know we're doing mental management online March 5, 12, and 19. It's going to be at 3 p.m., 7 p.m., and 9 p.m. Eastern Kentucky time, Eastern Standard Time. That'll be available on the website for sure later today. All right, so I want to thank you for joining us. And until we meet again, and you can always go to upcoming classes at andersonshooting.com to see where we're going to be, what we're going to be doing. And if you want a free class in your area and you have access to a range, send me an email, steve@andersonshooting.com. Say, hey, let's do a class. Okay? Until we do that, until we meet again on the range, on the Zoom, on the phone, or anywhere else, be like me. Do what I do. Say it with me. 1, 2, 3. Love you. Bye. And get to work.